For gamers growing up around the 6th gen of gaming and before, chances are Acclaim are a name which will resonate. You'll know that they were a long tenured publisher from the NES all the way up to the PS2. They were responsible for a wide range of games, from licensed fodder to original properties, which kept the company afloat until in 2004, when it all came crashing down as they filed for bankruptcy. They had many great hits, along with a slew of horrendous software, but one aspect of their life that still creates a chuckle for many is their catalogue of absolutely insane marketing. Other publishers, including the likes of Capcom, have also used crazy marketing to help sell their games, but in the dying days of Acclaim Entertainment, such antics reach a new level of peculiarity. Here's 5 examples, as we look at the controversy caused, and whether these stunts actually helped sell some games. Let's start with one of the most notorious examples. The original Shadow Man, released in 1999, was a cult hit, mixing gothic horror with a Metroid-esque structure that saw you finding items to help explore previous areas. With a multi-platform release and mostly favourable reviews, Acclaim seemingly had a hit on their hands. 3 years later, a PS2 follow-up emerged titled Second Coming, which already earns negative points for the dubious trend of putting numbers in titles. Acclaim decided it needed to boost awareness for the game, so they pulled what is perhaps one of the most tasteless stunts of gaming marketing. The publisher offered British relatives of the recently deceased money to pay for funeral costs in exchange for advertising Shadow Man Second Coming on tombstones. The Guardian posted a story saying it raises grave concerns, and a spokesperson for the Church of England slammed the move, saying it would not allow it. No bereaved families took part in this, but did the scandal work in adding sales to Second Coming? No. The game scored a fair bit lower than its predecessors, and failed to sell enough to earn a spot in Sony's PS2 Platinum range. While the original is cited as an often forgotten gem that didn't get its full dues at the time, many are unaware it even received a sequel. That says it all, really. Mere months later, Acclaim were at it again. Turok was arguably one of Acclaim's most important series, with multiple installments on the Nintendo 64 scoring well and selling strongly, considering the exclusivity. But with Evolution, Acclaim would finally bring the Dinosaur Hunter to other consoles, and perhaps in a bid to raise awareness among Xbox and PlayStation owners who had been out the loop, a US publicity stunt was cooked up. Expecting parents who named their child Turok first would earn $10,000 in saving bonds. Acclaim pulled a similar stunt in UK shores, albeit only with £500 and an Xbox. You can just imagine the awkwardness of explaining this name to your grandparents, telling the priest when they're being baptised, and sending the poor child to school. But did this name game actually help Turok Evolution? No. Turok Evolution was regarded by many as the weakest entry in the series, with a particularly lackluster PS2 port and average reviews leading to uneven sales across all 3 platforms. The Xbox version did enter Microsoft's Classics range, but the GameCube and PS2 versions did not enter their respective sale ranges, and a proposed follow-up was cancelled. It would be the last Turok game until Propaganda Games' reboot in 2008. Oddly, Bethesda would pull a similar stunt in 2011 for Skyrim, with a lifetime of Bethesda games rewarded for the poor child named Dovahkiin. Another UK stunt here, this time involving the PlayStation 2 version of Virtua Tennis 2. In June of 2003, as Wimbledon season was approaching, Acclaim announced, and I promise I'm not making this up, they would be spray painting trained pigeons to fly over Wimbledon and advertise Virtua Tennis 2's PS2 port. Don't worry, animal activists, the paint was water-based and supposedly harmless. While the stunt itself never took place, the showing of training and news stories ran by outlets like the BBC definitely caught attention, with murmurs that the event organisers were so worried about these pigeons causing disruption that trained hawks were on standby to prevent any outrageous events and commit brutal pigeon murder, presumably. But did this tennis tomfoolery help sell the Dreamcast game to PS2 owners? Unlikely. While it's hard to find any semblance of sale figures for the PS2 port of Virtua Tennis 2, it never entered the Platinum range, so presumably didn't sell through very much, though if Acclaim expended as little effort on the porting as they did for other Dreamcast titles like Crazy Taxi, they probably still made money. Let's just say, Sega's Dreamcast titles were not treated kindly when ported to other 6th gen consoles. One of the stronger titles under their belt, Burnout proved to be a commercial success for Acclaim and Criterion, as well as critically praised, leading to a sequel which debuted in 2002 for Xbox, and later the next year for PS2 and GameCube. The sequel was arguably even better, with critics praising its adrenaline-pumped arcade racing. But as we're in the dying days of Acclaim, you know they couldn't help cook up a marketing stunt to try and squeeze more people for cash. To mark the October 11th release of the PS2 version, Acclaim offered to pay any speeding fines incurred on that day via speeding cameras. Acclaim stated it was to ease financial burden and promote the game, but the UK government branded the ordeal as reckless and encouragement to drive dangerously without consequence. Did this high-speed payout earn some extra sales? Possibly. The PS2 version of Burnout 2 was by far the biggest seller of the three consoles, entering Sony's Platinum range and outdoing the combined sales of the GameCube and Xbox versions. Then again, this could be traced as much to the PS2's larger player base at the time, and you could argue this is more attributable to the praise afforded by game journos of the time, which were considered almost gospel compared to today's questionable reviews. In perhaps the most shameless moment of Acclaim's tenure, BMX XXX looked to cash in on the American Pie craze of the time, flaunting raunchy humour and innuendo on top of their newest BMX game. The problems came surrounding Dave Mirra, who had been the centrepiece of all of Acclaim's BMX games. Mirra had been heavily involved with the projects, helping secure other bikers and sponsors. The games were a critical and commercial hit, and Z-Axis wanted to take the series in a new direction, with narrative and missions not unlike Tony Hawk's Underground. But in a meeting, Acclaim decided the best direction to take the series was to, and I quote, add strippers. Desperate to have the next big sports hit, with the crowded genre and Acclaim's dwindling fortunes, the end result was BMX XXX. Relying on dog-humping jokes and tasteless humour, which would be absolutely lampooned in 2019, and was even frowned upon in 2002, with potently offensive adverts looking to fulfill the sex sells moniker. Did the focus on titillation and controversial ad campaigns work? No. In fact, it completely backfired. While Dave Mirra was originally part of the title, he sued Acclaim in 2003 for $20 million, claiming he was completely unaware of the direction the game was going, though he did drop the suit. He, along with other pro bikers, pulled their support for the game, as being involved in an adult-rated project was considered kryptonite for sponsors. Walmart and Toys R Us refused to sell the game in the US, which took a sizable chunk of sales potential away from BMX XXX. The game was critically panned as a step backwards for the Z-Axis-led sports game, and sold extremely poorly. Ironically, the only version to remain uncensored was the GameCube version. Z-Axis would be bought out by Activision, and Acclaim were left with another financial bomb on their hands. BMX XXX is perhaps the ultimate case study on how not to market a game, putting cheap sale tactics ahead of game craftsmanship. So what did you think of this marketing madness? Did these absurd events leave you scratching your head? What marketing stunts do you remember, Acclaim or otherwise? Drop a comment down below and subscribe for more retro modern gaming goodness.